Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be our next video on photosynthesis and specifically going through chlorophyll. Let's get started on our next video. So what is light and why is light important for photosynthesis? Light is electromagnetic radiation with a certain portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is, in the case of what we're going to be looking at, visible. And we can see if we zoom in on this diagram here, we can see we have violet, and then we see a red light, and we have all these different spectrums from 400 to 700 nanometers. That's what we're measuring the wavelength there. And really all we're thinking about when we think about light is the movement of energy and these photons moving through these light waves. All a photon is it's a packet of energy, and they move through these light waves, providing energy that we need for photosynthesis here. So it's going to be important that we think about light going through and being converted from our light energy into our chemical energy. Now, light energy is going to create the hydrogen ion gradient within the membrane, and what that's going to allow us to do is allow us to go through and power our electron transport chain and then power our Calvin cycle. So it's going through empowering independent and dependent reactions to eventually get our glucose. And if we look inside our chloroplast here, what we're going to see is we're going to see our chlorophyll. So light's going to go through, it's going to shine down on the plant, and our chlorophyll is going to go through within our chloroplast, collect that light energy. It's going to gather the energy via these pigments, and this pigment really is just a light absorbing molecule. What the pigment is going to do is it's going to allow us to capture that energy and transfer it into chemical energy. So when we talk about chlorophyll, chlorophyll is the plant's principal pigment there. We can see that in this picture here. It's important for us to go through and understand this because chlorophyll is what gives the plant its green color. Now, if we look at a chloroplast structure, we're going to see this. We have the stroma, which is the fluid-filled portion of the chloroplast. We have the thylakoid, which are the sac-like membranes responsible for harnessing light energy. We have the granum here, which are the stacks of thylakoids. And then we have the membrane, which contains the entire chloroplast complex. Now, if we see here, these chloroplasts are going to move dependent upon where the light source is. So if we shine light on our actual plant, what we're going to see is the chloroplasts are going to go through and align themselves dependent upon where the light is. So the more light we give, we can see that if light intensity is too great, the chloroplasts are actually going to move and the chlorophyll pigments will move, so that way we are regulating that energy and that light energy being absorbed by our organism there. So chloroplasts move dependent on the presence of light. Remember, light intensity is going to be one of those four factors which affects photosynthesis. And we're also going to see accessory pigments. And accessory pigments absorb other parts of the spectrum. We're going to see carotene, which is an orange pigment. Orange pigment that gives our leaves the color there, and carrots their orange color. Xanthophyll, which is a yellow pigment. We're going to see this xanthophyll in flowers. And then we have anthocyanin, which is a red pigment. And this anthocyanin is going to also go through and give leaves this red pigmenty color. So why are leaves green? Well, remember, they're green because they're going through and they are reflecting back the light that you go through and see. So the chloroplast is going to absorb all of the colors of the rainbow and all the spectrum there. But what we're going to see is it's going to reflect back that green light, and that's what gives the plant the green appearance there. So most colors get absorbed by the chloroplast and pigments, and the green light is reflected from the plant cell. Now, if we look at this graph here, we can see light absorption by photosynthetic pigments here. We can see our wavelength in nanometers for the visible spectrum. It started with 400 nanometers down to violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, and then red. And then what we can see is percent absorption here. And we can see that for each of the different pigments. We're going to see that for chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and then we're also going to see it for our carotenoids there. So we can see that if we look at this graph here, Plants are absorbing very little green and very little yellow light, and they're absorbing a lot of violet and blue light and orange and red light. Most of this is for energy to power photosynthesis, but we can see on the very right hand side there that orange and red is for circadian rhythm regulation within the plants. Now if we look at our accessory pigments here, why are the accessory pigments present? Well, accessory pigments go through and allow for other different types of light to be absorbed for regulation. Now, when trees and plants go through and lose their green chlorophyll, what we're going to see is in the winter, the leaves are going to get less sun, they're going to reduce the production of chlorophyll, and then we're going to see all of these extra accessory pigments present. This is why we see leaves change color in the winter and the fall here. It's because of the presence of these accessory pigments. All right, so did you guys learn? Well, did you learn a couple of things? Did you guys go through and learn about chlorophyll? Did you learn about accessory pigments? And then lastly, did you learn about why leaves change color in the fall? This will be the end of the video. I will see you all in class tomorrow.